Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to keep talking about jerkbaits. We've had a bunch of videos come out recently on jerkbaits, and as we know, the fall time is a great jerkbait time, so we're going to keep talking about it. And as I'm talking, we got our chickens looking in the window again. They heard me and they come running. So just a little update for all you guys that like to hear about my chickens. We got eggs. We've gotten 4 eggs over the last 2 days now, so they're starting to pump out some eggs, which is why we got you guys, right? Yeah, we expect about 16 eggs a day, so step it up. Yeah, that was my pep talk for the chickens. All right guys, so a question that I get all the time from you guys about jerkbaits have to do with different shapes and sizes of jerkbaits. Duke, you want to talk about jerkbaits? No? I'll come help you in a second, okay?
I need you.
I'll be right there.
No, I need a new one.
All right. He needs me. I'll be right back. All right, guys. All these interruptions. Had a little potty break. Definitely glad I went and helped out with that one. Anyways, so the question that we get all the time has to do with different body shapes and sizes of jerkbaits and when to use those different styles. So that's what we want to talk about today. So I've got a bunch of different jerkbaits here, and I just want to talk about like when I throw each one and why I throw each one. So we're going to start just with the classic jerkbait, which is, when I say classic, I'm going to say a slender body style, roughly 4.5 inch, and then just a regular diving bait. You know, this bait dives into that 4 to 6 foot range, depending on the line that you're throwing. It's a Megabass Vision 110, a very good jerkbait. So this body style is kind of the #1 style that I think you should go with. You're going to want to be fishing roughly that, you know, that 6 foot or deeper water, but I like to throw the regular diving lips down to about 10 foot of water. You know, in this case, this bait, like I said, if you're getting it down 4, 5, 6 foot and you're in 10 foot of water, that means the fish have to come up halfway to the surface. So if the fish are on the bottom and they're not suspended, that's a decent distance for them to go, especially in cold water. So if I'm fishing 10 foot of water or less, I'm going to be throwing just a standard diving jerkbait. I like the body style because it kind of mimics all the main forage species that are out there. It's not an intimidating size. It's pretty straightforward. And it's a proven size that works, which is one reason we're seeing a lot of other jerkbaits roughly with this body shape and size. So that's a go-to. This is kind of the one that I choose, I'll say, you know, 40% of the time. The other 40% of the time, I'm choosing a bait that's got the same style, body size, but just a deeper diving lip. So this is the Berkeley Cutter 110 plus. This bait gets down, so it's the same size as roughly that Megabass bait. It gets down a little bit deeper into that 8 foot range, maybe a little deeper depending on line that you're throwing. So the only real difference between this bait and the Megabass one I just showed you has to do with how deep it dives. If I'm fishing that 10 foot of water or deeper, I'm going to be going with a deeper diving bait to try to get it down into that 8 to 10 foot range to get it closer to the fish, which allows them hopefully to have more interest and come up to get the bait. So the deeper that I'm fishing, the deeper I want my bait to go. I like to be down in like that 50th percentile of the water column. So if I'm in 16 foot of water, I'd like to get it down at least to 8 foot. You know, if I'm in 4 feet of water, I like to fish in that 2 foot range. So the majority of the time, I'm going to be throwing a bait that's got a slender body style and either a regular diving lip or a deep diving lip. Those to me are the 2 best sizes of bait, or the 2 best choices of jerkbait to use. From there, then you've got a couple other options. So this is a floating jerkbait. So this bait only dives a couple of feet, but on the pause will rise. you know, I think that the floating jerkbaits have lost a lot of popularity over the last several years, but they work really, really well when fishing shallower water or fishing over weeds. You know, this bait just will rise to the top and allow those fish, or allow you to fish it cleanly through those areas without digging your jerkbait into the bottom. One of the worst things you can do, in my opinion, is keep your jerkbait on the bottom. Those fish want this bait above them, so you want to keep it above where they're sitting. Whether they're suspending and they're off the bottom, you want to keep it above the suspended fish, or if their belly is on the bottom, you want to keep it above them. You don't want to dig your jerkbait into the bottom. So if I'm fishing, you know, that 4 or 5 foot range, I'm definitely going with a floating model like this. And if I'm fishing around vegetation, the floating model is the way to go, because you can work it up and around vegetation a lot better than a suspending model. So the next style would be what I consider a much beefier model jerkbait. You know, this is a Lucky Craft pointer. It's a big bait, bigger bodied bait, and it just moves a lot more water. It takes a lot more effort to get this bait to really dart and dash throughout the water column. But I like to throw this bait if I'm fishing around a better quality fish. Like, you know, when I go to a Gunnersville lake, these bigger baits seem to work really well for me, because the fish as a whole are bigger and you're fishing for bigger fish. But it also works really well when you're on a body of water that's got a little color to it. So, you know, when you go to like the TVA lakes, a bigger body works really well, because those lakes are not super clear. You've got a couple of foot of visibility, and that's where a bigger bodied bait really moves and displaces water and allows the fish to locate this bait. So if I'm fishing a system like the TVA, where I know I'm fishing for better quality fish, I've got a little off-colored water, I like to go with a bigger bodied bait. Now to counter that, if I'm fishing super, super clear water, I don't mind downsizing quite a bit. This is a really good bait. This is a Rapala X-Rap that I've used for years. This is a special color. I don't know if they make this. It's called Gobi, and it's worked really well for me up here in the North Country. But it's a good bait for a couple of reasons. One, if you're fishing a lake that doesn't have the size of fish that you may find down south, a smaller jerkbait's not a bad way to go. But it's also much less intimidating. So on highly pressured bodies of water, a smaller jerkbait can get you more bites than a bigger jerkbait. It's just one of those things that over the years I found that if there should be a jerkbait bite and I'm not getting bit, I don't really have any issue downsizing to a smaller jerkbait. So don't be afraid to go with a smaller jerkbait than what is considered the standard size. And when I say go smaller, I'm talking you definitely can go significantly smaller. So this is just a little pin minnow. I gotta tell you guys, there are times when really, really small jerkbaits like this can be very, very good. Specifically, if you're fishing around the spawn, a small jerkbait hovered over a bed can be dynamite. But at the same time, if you've got tons and tons of little pin minnows that are on the bank and that's what the fish are keying in on, a small, tiny jerkbait like this can trigger those fish into biting when they won't even look at a jerkbait that's bigger in size. So there's a bunch of different variations of jerkbait. You know, I've got really specific times when I like to throw them. I stick to that standard, you know, the standard size with the standard lip and the diving lip, the little deeper diving lip the majority of the time. But depending on lake and depending on watercolor and the time of year and where I'm at, I will change it up and go with different baits as well. So don't be afraid to get some jerkbaits that kind of cover all the different gamuts. You're going to need them for special situations that arise throughout the year. They may not be your go-to baits, but there will be times you're happy you have them. So I hope this was helpful, guys. I get a lot of questions about the different body styles and you know, what jerkbaits I would recommend. And these are all baits and styles that I think are good to have in your tackle box. If it was helpful, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. More tips and tricks coming out tomorrow.